The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by BankPlus. BankPlus, it's more than a name, it's a promise.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
This is Out of Order.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Oh, man. The silly season is upon us. Yes, college football recruiting, but I was talking about the coaching carousel. Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome in to your college football show of choice, your sports and entertainment show of choice in the great state of Mississippi. Somebody's got to lead the way and carry the whole thing. We are the Out of Bounds Show. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS. I've got Blake Mania with me. I am your host, Bo Bounds. We actually did some show prep today, and we're excited about the show. We'll have Mike Detillier, Mike D at 8:30, LSU Insider. And then at 9:30, we'll have Jordy Culotta. Sounds like a guy that you want to hang out with, right, Blake, and have some gumbo or some jambalaya. Uptown, maybe a few streets off of Tulane. He'd know where to go. Jordy Culotta will join us at 9:30. Both of our guests will join us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Show is powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. DancingRabbitGolf.com. What's up? Blake, we've got a good NFL weekend coming up. How about that?
Great weekend.
It is. And some championship games. Can Bama make this interesting? Or does Kirby walk the dog in Atlanta? I don't know. Can't wait to see what happens there. That Bama O-line, whew, goodness gracious. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can hit us up on the Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-707-3750. Twitter handle at BoBounds. And your Ag Up Equipment, Mississippi Ag text line, 601-885-3776. Blake, if True Maroon has not said hello to us this morning, then
dude, if you don't have your head screwed,
he's out.
Yeah, if you don't have your head screwed on tight today, I mean, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Have your coach taken right out from under you, apparently.
How happy are you to see me today?
On a scale 1 to 10 or relative to every other day? Because those are probably
either way you want to go?
Probably changing. You know, I thought yesterday, we talked a couple times after the show, this is that weird time of year where even more so than recruiting, we could get like a major story at any 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Because you just don't know who. I mean, none of us saw Lincoln Riley. We all considered and bantied around the idea of Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma, but until it happens, you don't believe it, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it happens on Sunday afternoon. It's a chaotic, after effects, ripple effects of him leaving, not only leaving Oklahoma, but spurning the SEC, as I saw so many
$15 million a year.
Yeah, eloquent writers, right. Spurning the SEC for Southern Cal.
Nothing like our West Coast elite
right.
college football
and
media not understanding what's going on.
I saw the contract details, and we'll get into that for Lincoln Riley. It was the right decision if that's what they're paying him.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, it was the right decision regardless.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, especially with what I've seen of their stipulations. But for Brian Kelly, I mean, to middle of the afternoon yesterday, see that Brian Kelly was leaving Notre Dame, not for Southern Cal like we all thought potentially, or not for the NFL like some people had mentioned his name for a couple times before, to come down to the cesspool that is LSU, and the dirty South.
Right.
After leaving just the high and mighty Notre Dame Fighting Irish, a school that no one would ever turn down. What a day. What a Monday in sports. There is no offseason in college football, is there?
No, there's not. And it's no longer 1980 either. Notre Dame, in 2003, I jumped on the show. I'll never forget this, Blake. And I started talking about how Notre Dame's ship had sailed and they were not what they were. And there were actually some listeners out there, whether they're just Notre Dame street fans or maybe raised Catholic and loved Notre Dame or whatever it was. And, I mean, they were irate. And that was one thing that I was right about. I mean, the ship, the paradigm shift from the Midwest to the Sun Belt has been in effect for years and years and years. And Notre Dame is not the job that it once was. It's a good job, and it's still a prestigious place. But in the SEC fans don't watch Notre Dame. You know, they don't watch the overcast, gray games when Notre Dame's playing Purdue and Stanford and Michigan State and Boston College. I mean, those games aren't interesting. And so this shouldn't surprise anybody that Brian Kelly looked at this and said, you know what? I want more. We don't have a buzz when we go and play on Saturday, or much less Saturday night. And I've heard about the SEC. I've played Georgia in the last couple of years. They took over our stadium. I mean, think about that. Notre Dame alums sold all their tickets to Georgia Bulldog fans a couple of years ago. And when we did watch that game, there were more Georgia fans in the stands from prestigious coming out of World War II, Notre Dame powerhouse, the media. How many articles did they write on Notre Dame coming out of World War II, right? Notre Dame is the best ever, the golden helmets, football Jesus, all that.
Remember, they weren't the convicts like Miami. They were just the good old true American Catholic boys.
The Midwest media made sure to rob Coach Paul Bear Bryant of a national title because of their anti-Sun Belt, anti-South deal. They robbed Peyton Manning in 1997 of the Heisman. So, you know, it's been a petty group for some time now. But when you see, like, a lot of the athletic.com writers are on the West Coast, and they can't wrap their brain around that someone left Notre Dame to go to LSU. Well, LSU's, a much better job. Now, is there a path of least resistance for Notre Dame? Yeah, but we don't know. Yeah. We don't know where this is going, and the College Football Playoff Committee seems to be looking at this and not rolling out the red carpet for Notre Dame on the next contract and telling them, like they wanted to hear, you're in regardless. Don't worry about it. All you have to do is play a fractured schedule against Boston College, Navy, Stanford, and Michigan State and Purdue. And we're going to allow you to come in. And so, like Nebraska, like Michigan, Notre Dame is one that got caught up in what I have said for years. When ESPN democratized college football, like Southwest Airlines democratized the skies starting in the early 80s. But when ESPN democratized college football, Blake, there was an absolute and total paradigm shift within the sport that a lot in the media. I mean, if you were already 45 years old in 1985, you weren't going to catch that. No. You know what? You were already set that it's Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and everybody else. What did Game Day do when they started Game Day? They put an Ohio State guy on there, and when they added another guy, they put a Michigan guy, right? And now, the whole thing, where does Game Day live, Blake? In the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Right? Unbelievable. Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame to take the LSU job. The show is powered by MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Good morning. Welcome in. Big Board coming up next. Mike D. Mike D at 8:30, LSU Insider. Jordy Collada, 9:30, LSU Insider. The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Boar's Head. Premium meats, cheeses, and hummus. Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.
Big board. What's on the big board?
Woo! 2 blue blood programs lose their coach. Lincoln Riley, the new coach at Southern Cal, he leaves Oklahoma. And Brian Kelly leaves, can you believe it, Blake? Notre Dame. Prestigious Notre Dame. To go to the Sun Belt and the SEC and take the LSU job. Is that good or bad for Mississippi State and Ole Miss? I'd say it's not good. Now, is it fun in the grand scheme of things of talking about the SEC and college football because Kelly's an accomplished coach who did a good job at Notre Dame considering their academic restrictions and how difficult it is to navigate your way through what you can and can't do. Georgia doesn't have that problem, obviously. Bama doesn't have that problem when they're recruiting. So I think all in all, in modern-day college football, I think Brian Kelly did a good job at Notre Dame. And probably, Blake, he did everything you can do.
Yeah.
They're not a national championship program. That would throw a lot of people off my age and older, but especially, let's bump it up a little bit, 55 and older. I think if you were at lunch today, and of course you, hammering a slice of Sal and Mookie's pizza in Madison, and we were all discussing this, there would be some that still, they can't shake that it's not 1980 anymore. They haven't won a national title since 1988. Most of the titles pre-1998, or all of them, don't matter or don't count because, I mean, it was based on, a bunch of media policy wonks through the Associated Press that didn't watch games because they didn't have access. They would go to one game a weekend, vote week to week. It's why when I get cracked up when people continue to reference the Associated Press poll. I'm like, is it 1989?
Who cares?
But now, then we got the BCS championship and corrected it a little bit, or a pretty good bit. And then, of course, with the college football playoff, you get the you get the best team. So Notre Dame has not won since 1988. Ronald Reagan was president, or right before George Bush won, taking over. That's a long time ago, my man. You weren't even born.
That's correct.
Neither were any of your buddies. And so...
And yet it was still 8 years sooner than Georgia's last national title.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Bada boom,
Georgia.
bada bing.
What is it called? Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil?
Yes.
I always think about that attorney.
Yeah.
Telling Kevin Spacey. Oh, he was like, are you going to work on my case all weekend? No.
I got to go to Georgia.
I got to go to Georgia, to Athens.
I got to go to the Georgia
Savannah
game.
Athens is a cool place, no doubt about it. But look, the ship sailed for Notre Dame a long time ago, but it's a good program, and Kelly is a top 10 recruiter there. So guess what he's going to do at LSU?
The same thing they've done the last 20 years.
People were texting me the last few days and be like, they need to get a recruiter. I'm like,
what are you talking about?
Let's say it. Let's say it out loud. Let's say it slow. LSU recruits itself. They've already got the 75% deal, which is recruiting check.
You just need someone to not screw it up. You just need someone to keep the ship moving in the right direction.
Ed Ogeron won a national title there.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Joe Moorhead and Matt Luke could go to the college football playoff there.
Oh, no.
Live in the BankPlus Studio, Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRCast. Do you think that Ole Miss, can I switch gears real quick?
Yeah.
Do you think that Ole Miss should build a statue for Phil Longo? And the reason why I throw this
Well,
out
that's
today.
a big switch.
No, hey, stay with me. Do you think that Ole Miss should build a statue for Phil Longo?
Sure. Yeah, why? Tell me.
Because they went out and got Matt Corral.
Okay.
Or should they build a statue for Dan Mullen, who
Oh.
let go of Matt Corral as a commitment when he took over at Florida and moved off of him and decided to go with Emory Jones? And, do you see where I'm going there?
I do. I figured they would just build it with Kiffin.
And the Ole Miss Mississippi State thing, it's amazing how they impact each other. Dan McDonnell. Okay, so that's obviously helped Ole Miss tremendously. Maybe the best player they've ever had in the history of their football program. Okay?
So Dan Mullen got the best quarterback at both the schools in Mississippi ever?
Wow, Dak Prescott and Matt Corral. But hold on, hang with me.
All right,
And
I know where you're going.
Former Ole Miss assistant coach Dan McDonnell
Yep.
gave a glowing recommendation to John Cohen about his best friend, Chris Lemonis, who takes the job and wins the national championship.
There you go.
So should Mississippi State have a statue for Dan McDonnell?
I mean, I guess. By proxy.
Okay, I was just throwing it out.
I like the Mullen one better just because it's a little bit more direct.
Okay. Okay.
Because Matt Corral, I mean, that's like a direct line for sure.
Okay. You're not buying my Dan McDonnell, Chris Lemonis are best friends.
Let's see if Chris can really accomplish. It's only been a couple years. Let's see if he can accomplish something.
Or he may be the most accomplished coach in the history of the state.
So
already,
here's my question to you: how much does this hire of Brian Kelly help Ole Miss in that it's one less place Lane Kiffin can go?
Right.
And it certainly seems like at this point, barring what we don't know is going to happen at Miami, that seems like the last-ditch effort. How does that make you think Ole Miss fans are thinking this morning as
I think they feel good.
Yeah, wake up with that. And B, did LSU get the better guy? It seems like this two-horse race was Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly.
Oh, did LSU get the better guy?
Was Brian
I don't
Kelly
know.
the better hire than Lincoln Riley?
Well, Brian Kelly's got a much better, longer resume at a place that is more difficult to win. Oklahoma has had their way in the Big 12, and the Big 12 has been far and away the worst Power 5 conference, Blake. And the power in the Big 12 has been down for 13 years, and that would be the University of Texas Longhorns. And
I know
they don't have the academic, Lincoln Riley hasn't had the academic restrictions.
Yeah.
And again, that conference is not good at all.
No.
Not good at all.
But I wonder.
I don't know how Oklahoma State wins like they do, going backwards in recruiting 15 spots. But Mike Gundy, although weird, he may be the best college football coach in America. Go ahead.
Well, no, my question was going to be with, Lincoln Riley was the hot name and the exciting name. Brian Kelly is the established name. He's 166 and 62 in his 18 seasons at the FBS level. I mean, that's a huge resume, right? To have that long of a track record of winning. But he's not the offensive guru. He's not an innovative offensive guy. Notre Dame has struggled offensively at times over the last decade.
They have.
With him at the helm.
And they've been good, too, at times.
But playing very subpar teams over the course of their schedule.
No doubt. I mean, there are some spots in their schedule playing Georgia. Michigan's still they're just not great. They're a good football program. Stanford for a while was good under Harbaugh and David Shaw. Shaw's running into the ground. But, I mean, I don't think that's surprising.
So I guess here's what I'll ask you to answer on the other side since we're running out of time. Who gets the Reuter awakening? Oklahoma as a franchise coming into the SEC or Brian Kelly as a coach coming into the SEC?
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
You wanted me to answer on the other side. I'm sorry.
You seem to know immediately. I thought you'd have to spend a little time. Kelly's walking into the West for a few years,
He is, but, dude, he's walking in, and the cupboard is full, my man.
You saying he's starting on third base?
He is starting on third base at LSU. Let's say it out loud again. Ed Ogeron and Les Miles won national titles at LSU. I'm serious, Blake. I think Sylvester Croom could go down there and go 10-2. We're live in the BankPlus Studio. SEC Insider Hit coming up next.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is powered by Breezy Oaks Ranch. For Mississippi-raised premium Wagyu beef and heritage pork shipped straight to your door, visit breezyoaksranch.com.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
This is Out Warning.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Evidently, this Adidas pullover is as advertised because it was a little warm in here. That and we have these lights on me since studio lights are a little bit
You're a star.
hotter. I'm a star. Hey, you made a good point during the break.
Thank you.
Well, let's not go overboard. So Florida and LSU play each other every year, but that may only be, Blake, for only 2 more years. You know,
So it's-
maybe 3 until
Yeah.
we get into the pods with Oklahoma and Texas joining the league. But you made it, so we may get 3 years of this whole Brian Kelly versus Billy Napier thing. Now, we know that Lane Train and the Pirate, or whoever's in Oxford and Starkville, will play LSU every year. We also seem to believe, for whatever reason, we just kind of go with it, right? That when we go to the pods in the SEC, or whatever they want to call it, kind of like NFL divisions, right? 4-team divisions, that LSU will be in Mississippi State and Ole Miss's pod.
Does feel that way geographically. Although I guess there is the very, very, very slim chance and awful chance that you could go Iron Bowl, Egg Bowl combination. Take the 2 states of Mississippi and Alabama and stick them together
That would be terrible
That would be
because
devastating.
you don't want to play Bama.
every year.
Even if Saban's going to retire in the next couple of years, you still would like to break
Yep.
that part of your scheduling.
Get them 2 every 4 instead of 4 out of 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even,
I
gosh, if
think
you-
the new plan is to be that you play every team once every other year is the idea. So that one would be home, one would be away. That way over the course of 4 seasons, you can knock out every location.
Yeah. Huh.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. There's a whole lot of scheduling you got to figure out.
We won't know this, but it's fun to talk about. Who made a better hire? Florida with Billy Napier or LSU with Brian Kelly?
Why does it feel like Lincoln Riley was the no doubt name that people wanted to go with as the best hire?
Because he's young and he's had some quarterbacks that everybody knows.
Yep, there you go.
Brian Kelly has not had quarterbacks that everybody knows, and nobody watches ULL football.
Well,
and I'm sorry to say that, Billy. That's a great. It's a really good program where they're one of the best G5 programs in the country. They were paying Billy Napier over $2 million a year, which nobody else in his conference were paying and they can get players in Louisiana and Texas and be really, really good. So, Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. SEC Insider Hit this morning, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue. The official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. Want to welcome you in, say good morning. We'll have Mike Detillier at 8:30, LSU Insider. And then Jordy Collada at 9:30, LSU Insider. With Mike D, we'll talk a little NFL too. And with Jordy, we may go into some SEC West. But we'll start off with LSU's new hire. It's not Lane Kiffin or any number of guys that you threw out. Scott Woodward evidently targeted, I guess a combination of Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly. And it worked out. I mean, this is a good hire. Brian Kelly is a heck of a coach. He did a super job at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not what they were in 1972.
He took them to a title game, though.
He took them.
They got skull dragged, but
they did. 2012.
2012. It was the Manti Te'o, infamous catfish girlfriend, the fake girlfriend that he never had.
Catfish.
He didn't meet for 3 years, but somehow thought they were in a relationship. And then Alabama. I remember being so hot. Everybody was all hot and bothered for that game, and we had a group together. It's the least watched college football championship I can ever remember having like a group together for.
Yeah, it was over in the first 10 minutes.
28-0 after the first quarter.
And then Saban, took his foot off the accelerator. Anyway, and then he made what, like another college football playoff?
No, I don't think he ever made the playoff. He went to 7 of 8.
Although they
games.
could be making it this year.
That's true. He could have left. He's done. He is not coaching whatever other games they make. So there is the potential, and this is probably one of those wild things that we've never really seen before, but a team playing for a national title with their head coach at another team already.
Wowzers.
It could happen still. Conference championship weekend will be a huge impact on whether or not Notre Dame gets in.
Yeah, and Billy Napier has decided to coach the Sun Belt Championship game.
Don't understand that one.
I don't either. I'm of, the Greg Byrne. I guess Scott Strickland just said, fine. But most of the time, those guys are like, nope, we need you here, boots on the ground. Go ahead and hire 3 assistants. And you kind of know at least 3 guys out of the 10 you're going to hire. And boom, you need to hit the ground running with signing day around the corner. So it is the silly season, Blake. We've got recruiting, and then we've got the coaching carousel. So now Notre Dame and Oklahoma are open, right? And there's a couple other openings, but they're starting to fill up. And Barry Switzer was talking about Mike Leach would be a great candidate at Oklahoma on Sports Talk Radio.
Oh.
And he knows Mike Leach because Leach spent a season there under Bob Stoops. And then Leach was in the Big 12 for years. And I think Switzer admires him because he's like, dang. He had some solid talent at best, middle of the pack, maybe in the Big 12, and was able to win a ton of games and give Oklahoma and Texas a hard time in doing so. So, then there's all this talk that Brent Venables will be the next coach at Oklahoma. And he's the defensive coordinator at Clemson, but he spent some time at Oklahoma under Bob Stoops. And Venables has done a great job at Clemson. Dabo's left him alone. And, man, if it's true, and people are throwing everything out, but, man, if Venables could go hire a big-time OC like Kendall Browse, then I think you have something cooking there.
Except he's never run a program.
He hasn't. Neither had Lincoln Riley. Neither had Dan Mullen. Neither had Tommy Tuberville at Ole Miss. So there are some, I guess, exceptions to the rule. Yes. Neither had Dabo. Dabo had never been a coordinator.
Yeah. It also took Dabo 7 years to get it going, and you probably know this already, but they won't give Venables 7 years. That will not be the case.
No.
You'll get 3.
But he's walking into a good situation, a healthy roster. They've done some good things at Oklahoma. So, Out of Bounds brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be Blue, the official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show. True Maroon said, I think he's going to be Butch Jones at LSU.
Oh.
He's talking about Brian Kelly.
Low ceiling there.
I think you can trip over 10 wins at LSU. almost. I mean, Eddie O didn't do that this year, right? I mean, they were down, way down. So was Auburn. So was A&M. I mean, the SEC West was down. The SEC as a whole was down.
Which makes it more unacceptable
Florida,
that you didn't win 10 games.
With Florida not being good, and with Auburn going 6-6, and with LSU firing their coach, midway through the season, and with A&M, throwing up an L, going 8-4, the league was way, way down. Tennessee's not good. The list goes on and on. I think he'll be far from Butch Jones as far as a coach. If he can win at Notre Dame, and if Les Miles and Ed Ogeron can win at LSU, there's no reason why Brian Kelly can't win and win big at LSU. Fair enough?
Yeah, Butch Jones was only 7 games over 500 at Tennessee, 34-27. That's not good.
Oh, he'll blow through that.
Yeah.
He'll blow through that.
The question I keep coming back to, like you mentioned, is, and we're going to get to see them play each other, hopefully. I mean, it appears that at least for the next 3 years, right? We'll see how that changes with Texas and Oklahoma's inclusion, whether that happens early or not.
Both our teams, by the way, go to Baton Rouge next year.
Yep.
So if everything holds with the Pirate and Lane Train, they will travel to Baton Rouge. Go ahead.
Well, I wonder. I know it doesn't always work this way. It's not just because one coach beats another coach doesn't mean that coach is inherently better. I get that. There's so many extenuating circumstances. But it is great that we get to see Kelly and Napier take each other on, and you can kind of ask that question of which program hit the nail on the head first, so to speak. Which program got ready? Because for LSU fans, fair or foul to Brian Kelly, every win Napier gets is one LSU fans will be going, that could have been us.
Yeah.
There's a large contingency that thought Napier should have been the guy at LSU.
Yeah.
From Louisiana, knows that place like the back of his hand after coaching there for 6 years now at ULL.
Boy, he did a good job.
I can't believe he just
4 years.
I can't believe that LSU. I guess Scott Woodward interviewed him and was just willing to say, "I want bigger fish." Whether or not they're better or not is irrelevant.
I guess Scott Woodward and maybe others around him didn't feel like that they could go to a G5 school in the state of Louisiana and promote him.
Yeah.
No, I think Napier's just as good a hire at Florida as Brian Kelly is at LSU.
Just no splash.
Yeah. Napier has done a wonderful job at ULL. He was under Saban for 4 years, and he was under Dabo for several years. I mean, people really admire his talent, his recruiting prowess, and his ability on the offensive side of the football. So I think, look, Florida has been overshadowed because Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to Southern Cal, and because Brian Kelly just left Notre Dame to go to LSU. But Napier may end up being the guy. I mean, people in the Alabama building refer to him as, a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, Saban was just so impressed with him. And, Napier was there when Lane was there, Lane Train, and Kirby Smart, and many other guys. Before Saban's staff took a dip, like Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding, obviously, are not elite offensive and defensive coordinators. But hey, Napier, yeah, and look, we've talked about how Napier was fired at Clemson many, many times. It was when Dabo was trying to get it up and running, and Dabo's talked highly of Napier. That was right out of the chute before they got Taj Boyd up and running. And then, of course, they recruited better and eventually got Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence. But Napier was long gone by then. But, hey, Napier landed at Bama, spent 4 years there, and got to see that whole deal too. And then a quick stop where? Arizona State before getting hired at ULL. So
2 new coaches in the league. Do you think we get a third between now and when the coaching silly season ends?
anything can happen, but it sure doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. So Oklahoma's open. That's the best job on the market. Miami potentially could come open
Tonight.
We think that could happen.
At 12:01.
Yeah. When Manny Diaz's buyout supposedly drops, according to reports.
According to reports, Miami could fire Manny Diaz at 12 or 12:01 tonight because like you said, the buyout goes down. So watch out for the Miami Hurricanes in the U.
Yep. So
and what are they now that Southern Cal actually committed? Now that Southern Cal actually committed, and they're talking about $15 million per year.
And did you see what else they did? Southern Cal bought Lincoln Riley's 2 homes in Norman because they had just built a new home that he hadn't even moved into. They bought 2 homes, $500,000 over market price. Both of them bought from the Rileys. Then they also bought him a $6 million home in California. And so
unlimited use of the private jet.
Exactly. So his kids could stay in school right now, at least. Unlimited use of the Southern Cal private jet for his family.
That's not a bad deal.
What a deal.
You can get to from Norman to L.A. in 2 hours. So that's
yeah.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool. What do we have here? Let's see. Urban Meyer needs to throw in the towel and come back to college.
I've heard a lot of that. Urban has publicly said multiple times his dream job would be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Well, but he had a chance to take it, and the administration didn't give him what he wanted, so he took the Florida job, and I think that worked out for him.
But Notre Dame
wanted unrestricted 10 spots a year.
Yeah.
To go and recruit whoever he wanted, like Georgia can and Bama and LSU and other schools. And the Notre Dame executive leadership
said
was like,
no.
We're not going to do that. And so Urban took the Florida job, and the rest is history. That's what's made him
who he is.
He was able to go down there, and now it was pre-Saban and pre-Georgia getting rolling again under Smart, and LSU had Miles. I mean, it was a totally different league back then.
But on the other hand, Brian Kelly has not only improved Notre Dame, but drastically improved Notre Dame's position from when Urban Meyer was looking at going to Notre Dame over 15 years ago to now.
Right.
So it's a different approach. And now that Urban's been doing what he's done in the NFL, he might be looking around going, I don't want to do this. I don't like losing. I don't like looking like we're not even closer week in and week out.
That's a great question. Do you want to go recruit 17-year-olds, I guess, is the number one question. And do you want to go somewhere where you're restricted? Like Notre Dame, where you can't go into Atlanta or wherever and do whatever you want. I don't think that's what Urban Meyer wants to do. We'll have Mike Detillier on at 8:30. Mike D on at 8:30. He'll join us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Jordy Collada will join us at 9:30. So 2 LSU insiders, one at 8:30 and one at 9:30 today. Hey, another quick deal. I was reading a story on theathletic.com about Bob Stoops, longtime Oklahoma coach. I did not realize that he got into the tequila business. He is an owner in Rock and Roll Tequila.
Oh.
It was a cool article by Jason Kersey. And it talked about how when Bob Stoops when he stepped down at Oklahoma, he goes to the first home game the next year at Oklahoma. And he's been a coach his whole life. And his wife didn't want to say anything to him, but he had been talking all week about going to the Oklahoma Sooners home game. And he was all excited about it. This would have been Lincoln Riley's first game at Oklahoma as a head coach several years ago. And she talks about in the article how she wanted to tell him, hey, you're not going to be able to navigate the traffic because you've never had to. I mean, y'all stay right off campus. The bus takes you in a couple hours before, so on and so forth. And it's great. She said, we drove to the stadium, and, of course, Bob didn't take the right route, and I didn't want to say anything. And so we end up on a side street, and he parks the car, and he says, where do all these people come from? And she said, you've been on the sideline for years.
Yeah,
it's 80,000 people in Norman, Oklahoma going to the game. And she said he had no idea how to navigate the traffic.
That's funny.
And she had been doing that for 2 decades, obviously, in Norman. It's a really cool article. And it also talked about how she's pretty honest in the article about how difficult it was for Stoops to transition from head coach, always on a schedule, always going somewhere for the University of Oklahoma or for his players or recruiting and whatnot. And what a big transition it was over 2 years and really into year 3 as far as him stepping away from the Oklahoma program. It's fun, though. The name of the article is Tequila, Rock and Roll, and Letting Go. Bob Stoops' second act. And it's pretty cool, kind of, for a guy to step down in his 50s.
It's unheard of.
You know, his father had a heart attack on the sideline at 54 years old as a high school football coach in Ohio. And so Bob, I think, stepped down at 56 and, of course, had already made a fortune at Oklahoma. Can't you just see him trying to drive into the stadium and not know where to go, how to get there, or understand what in the heck is the deal with all the traffic?
How football coach is it of him to be in the stadium with all those people every Saturday and then not understand that all those people have to get in and out of the stadium? Like, that's so football coach of him to be like, wait, all these people park and walk around the stadium and then have to go inside? Like, how does that work? Like, what did you think was happening every time you ran out onto the field and 80,000 people cheered at you? Like, what? I don't understand how you missed that was going on.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be Blue, the official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show. All right, let's go college football playoff rankings. Ole Miss is now number 8 in the country.
Oh.
And you got Georgia at 1. Michigan's jumped up 4 spots. They're at number 2. Cincinnati is number 3. Yuck. Nobody wants to see that. Alabama is number 4, but we all know that Bama and Georgia play. If Georgia loses, they end. Don't you think? 12-1 Georgia?
I think so.
Oklahoma State is at number 5.
Oh.
And then Notre Dame, who just lost their coach, is at number 6. So as we look at this, look at who plays this weekend. Georgia and Bama play. Georgia's 1, Bama's 4. Michigan is number 2, and they play this weekend. They play Iowa, and believe it or not, I mean, they could lose that game. I know that sounds crazy, but Iowa is that thorn in the side team, and Michigan's on a high from beating Ohio State for the first time in what feels like 30 years, and they had lost 17 of 19, right? Just like Oklahoma State won over the weekend, and they had lost 14 of 16 in their rivalry against Oklahoma. So Ole Miss is coming in at number 8. By the way, Baylor plays this weekend, too, against OK State. So there's all, teams left and right in the top 10 that still have to finish up their season through the championship games. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, WRKS, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. Mike Detillier, 8:30 on the Out of Bounds Show.